Hello everybody, this is Brenda. On YouTube I'm known as Writer Bren. Today I want to talk to you kind of about my invisible disability, which is not so invisible anymore, which in a way kind of makes it worse because my disability is still invisible, but my accessories are not, and I'll kind of explain that here in a little bit. I guess this all started, well, even when I was a kid growing up. I always had a lot of trouble breathing, and they called it asthma, but the asthma medication usually made it worse. I have oxygen that I use when it's needed. When I was a senior in high school, it got really bad. I started getting pneumonia about once a year, and I would end up in the hospital. My senior year I was in the hospital most of the time, and they said I just had really bad asthma. And that was in the 90s, in the early 90s. And just for years, I became disabled with the asthma. Fortunately for me, it was before I turned 21. It wasn't just the asthma, it was the breathing trouble, and it seemed to pull on my heart, and things just were really bad, the pneumonia all the time. And so, I was on disability before I was 21, which means I was able to continue to get insurance through my father even up until now. I'm in my late 30s. And just for years I was treated for that. And I always had a lot of pain, I was always uncomfortable, and I was always told, well, you know, it's just depression, it's the trouble breathing, it's things like that. I was never treated for depression or seriously talked about depression. It was just like, that's your nerves, you know. Then fast forward to about 2007, I had moved to another state, actually a very rural place, and the local doctor, family doctor, said, you know, I think there just might be something a little more going on than we're noticing. He noticed that I was having some trouble with my heart and with the breathing, and so he did some tests. He did had a cardiologist do a right heart catheterization, and they found that I had pulmonary hypertension. So he sent me to a university hospital where they ran a bunch of tests, and while I was there, you know, they ran a blood test that showed that I had a positive dsDNA, which is very specific to autoimmune disease, specifically lupus. So they did a bunch of other tests, and they sent them back to him, and he ran some more, and everything was coming back positive and high and all this. So he sent me to a rheumatologist who, lo and behold, said, you know what, you've got lupus. And lupus can affect all kinds of things differently in different people. For me, it was my heart and my lungs. That is why I have pneumonia. I still have pneumonia about once a year. That's what caused the pulmonary hypertension. It also caused widespread pain. I had a lot of kidney infections. So we started different medications. It's still not under control because right now all I can do is steroids. Other medications tend to make my liver enzymes go way too high. So fast forward another couple of years, I was having terrible headaches, trouble reading, and I'd always had trouble reading. I hated reading as a kid. Pain in my legs when I tried to walk, trouble talking, trouble thinking. He did an MRI, and they found that I had a 15mm Chiari malformation. And what that is where your brain is herniated down into your spinal canal. And when it does that, you know, your spinal canal only has so much room, and your spinal fluid and your blood has to go through that. So he sends me to a neurosurgeon who says, you know, it's not too bad right now, we're not going to do anything about it, let's just watch it. So we're going to forward to November of 2010, the day after Thanksgiving. I had been doing, you know, okay. I'd had the bad headaches and all this stuff, but the day after Thanksgiving, I suddenly woke up one morning, and when I stood up, got really dizzy, a lot of pain in my head, couldn't walk, was falling, And one of the things a neurosurgeon had told me was, if you ever start walking like a drunk, that's a big sign, come back to me. Well, I ended up going to the emergency room. I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. They ran a bunch of tests. I had a doctor who I believe was incompetent, who told me that he had actually called my neurosurgeon, who said, no, this couldn't be related to your problem that you're having now. So I ended up going into a physical rehab facility for 3 months, where they said, it was just weakness. And I never was able to walk again. At the end of that 3-month period, I decided myself to call a neurosurgeon. I found a Chiari specialist who said, well, absolutely, this could be causing your problems. I then went home. I had to stay home for a couple of months and not have surgery so I could go back to rehab because of my insurance. And so I ended up having surgery in August of 2011. And it was brain surgery. It was called a craniotomy with laminectomy, where they removed part of my skull and hollowed out the first 2 vertebrae in my neck. I was in the hospital for about 4 days, and I went back to rehab for another 3 months, where we worked on walking and things. Now, in the meantime, while I was in the rehab, I should go back. But the first time, I started having trouble breathing on my own. I had trouble moving my arms, talking, thinking. I got a lot weaker, and that is when I decided to see the Chiari specialist myself. And after surgery, those things got better. Severe tremors in my hands got better. My vision got better. My trouble breathing got better. But the walking didn't. And I was in rehab for 3 months. Again, the same rehab, the same physical therapists, because they knew me and they were very good. And then they sent me home because my time was up in November of 2011. And I had home health, rehab, and I'd also had gallbladder surgery during that time. I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat. And anyway, I was home, and after about 3 months of home physical therapy, the physical therapists and my doctors and everybody decided, I was falling a lot. I fell a lot in rehab both times. I fell a lot at home. I injured my hip and my wrist and my head and all kinds of things. One night I fell and ended up in the emergency room. One night in rehab they gave me Soma for a muscle relaxer, and I went into a coma. I did wake up for a couple of days. And that's just part of that journey. But anyway, my physical therapist and doctors and all decided it had been long enough. I was falling, it was dangerous. I needed to stop walking. So, or trying to walk, and I was only doing that. I got like 20 feet with somebody holding on to me and me holding onto the walker and just kind of shuffling. So we decided to stop even trying. I'd been in a wheelchair all this time, and at this point they're working now on getting me an electric wheelchair. My parents are older and they have trouble lifting my wheelchair into the car, so we're looking at getting a van as well. So now, because they waited so long for the surgery, my brain didn't get the signals it should have got, and it was just too long for the legs. So the thing is, I can move my legs. It's just the balance issues, and I have a problem called proprioception, where I cannot tell you where my legs or arms are if I'm not looking at them. And all that goes together and makes me not able to walk. Now here's where the invisible part comes in. Although I am in a wheelchair, people see me use my legs, and they think, oh, there's a lazy person just using a wheelchair, going into stores or something. I may have one of my parents go get me one of the ride-on electric things, and I'm 30-something years old, and I'm using this electric thing, and I am overweight. And they think, well, there's just somebody who's overweight, who's lazy, using an electric thing, going through the stores, and they look at me, and that is part of the invisible part, is they can't see that, if I actually tried to stand up, I would fall. Also, I use high-dose steroids, which is what makes me overweight. And, of course, I'm tired all the time, I'm hurting all the time, and family and friends, family gets it, close family gets it, friends, people at church, they don't get how they can see me at Walmart one day and the next day I'm not able to go to church or able to go to the store. Why I'm always going to the doctors. You know, there's something wrong with her. She enjoys going to the doctors. Why I take pain medication, because I'm always in pain. And that's just like a lot of you have, is the invisible part, which makes it really difficult to deal with. Thankfully, I have a very loving family, and I do have a very loving, very close church family. It's other people who don't know me. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the process of getting an electric wheelchair. I still have the lupus. I still have pulmonary hypertension. I still get pneumonia about once a year. I had a hernia surgery in April, and while I was in there I got a collapsed lung and pneumonia and ended up back in rehab because I wasn't even able to transfer myself. And so now I'm back on home health because while in rehab they were trying to help me walk. My bathroom was not accessible, so I was having to use a crutch in one arm, one of those that kind of cuffs around your arm, a forearm crutch. And while we were practicing, I fell and my arm was caught in a forearm crutch, and I injured my shoulder and my elbow, so now I'm having trouble rolling myself in the wheelchair, so I'm getting therapy for that. My bathroom was remodeled, so now I don't have to stand up. And tomorrow I have to go because while they were doing go to the doctor, because while they were doing MRI to check the surgery, they found that my thyroid is enlarged and has some kind of mass in it. So, but my thyroid levels are fine in blood, and I'm going to tell them, you know, if it's okay, I don't want to do anything about it. I don't care that it's enlarged. It might just be a goiter. Let's hope so. Let's pray so. So, that's about it. If you have any questions, you know, let me know. I think that's it. That's gotta be it. That's my journey, and with an invisible disability.